Ow. This is just gonna be like a normal thing every time I hit the microphone with my head. Okay, so I had a new idea for a series here on my channel. And I don't really have a name for it yet, but basically, I think a lot of us as content creators here on YouTube have been more or less taught that we shouldn't be concerned with our gear, and that gear doesn't matter. In fact, now that I think about it, I think I made a short film. Anyways, basically, that we should care more about our skills as content creators, as storytellers, as photographers, as filmmakers, before we let gear get in the way of executing our ideas. And while I still agree with that, I do believe that we're all to some degree a bit guilty of watching hours and hours of videos about gear we'll probably never buy, but mainly just for the fact that it's really fun to see what other filmmakers and content creators are using in their workflows. It's just cool to watch gear. It's fun to watch reviews, even though it's probably stuff we're not actually interested in. It's just, anyways, I think we can all agree that it's cool to see videos about gear. So that's what this series is gonna be about. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, just basically talking about some cool gear. And well, today we're talking about my Sony A7 III rig and everything I use with it and the reasons I use it and sort of how it's evolved over time into what it is today. And yeah, okay, so I think right here is where I would have an intro, but I don't have an intro. So if anybody wants to make me an intro, hit me up. The Sony A7 III rig. Well, what is it? It may look complex, it may look fancy, but it's actually a lot more simple than you'd think. It's basically just a cage with a variety of accessories attached to make the filmmaking process just a little bit easier. Now, I will admit I don't use this on a regular basis. I certainly don't use this for vlogging. I think sticking this on a GorillaPod and trying to film myself wouldn't exactly be the easiest thing in the world, but I use it with a lot of commercial production, a lot of the client freelance stuff that I do. I use a setup similar to this, kind of just depending on my needs, and I use it here in the studio when I'm filming YouTube videos. I've had a variety of different cages over time, and the only real reason is just because I've needed to attach certain accessories, for example, microphone adapters or monitors. In fact, this is the cage that I was using previous to my A7 III. This is the one I used with my A7R II. This is from Small Rig. This new cage is also from Small Rig. I've been a long time supporter of them just because they make really great products, fairly affordable as well, and they're available on Amazon. And they make tons of different cages. They make a bunch of options for different cameras, both full, complete enclosed cages and half cages like this. They make a bunch of different top handles. They also make things like these articulating arms, so if you wanted to attach a monitor or something onto your camera, you got something like this, but I have this little swivel mount. They make the wooden grips that go on the side here. They make all kinds of little clamps and adapters to just make your whole filmmaking process very unique and customizable to your specific needs. But basically what these cages do is just give you a ton of ways to mount things to your camera. Your camera as it is fairly limited when it comes to attaching accessories. You basically have the hot shoe on the top, which you're usually probably just gonna mount a microphone to, or occasionally something like a little LED or whatever. And then you have the tripod thread on the bottom, which you are probably gonna attach to something like the GorillaPod. Other than that, that's pretty much what you get. So cages allow you a ton, pretty much unlimited, quarter 20 threads to mount pretty much any camera accessory. I mean, you can go crazy. You can build these things to however you need them. If you need it to be something full-fledged like this, where you have a power solution on the side here, you got the grip, you got the microphone adapter, you got the monitor, you can do that. But at the same time, if you wanted to make it a lot more minimal, we can remove the monitor here because I actually have it on a little NATO rail clamp. If I can get it undone, there we go. Pull it off. And then we could remove the microphone adapter, don't need that. And then we could just stick a top handle on here, also back right onto that NATO rail, tighten it up. boom, I got something a lot more minimal. So speaking of the monitor, what I have here is the iCan DH5E. It's a 5-inch full HD monitor, nothing crazy fancy. If you guys are looking for a monitor, my friend Caleb from DSLR Video Shooter actually has a really great video talking about 5 monitors for, I think it's like under $200. This one was a little bit more expensive than that because it can take a 4K signal. So if you're not looking for that, if you're just looking for a monitor on the cheap, definitely go check out that video. Link is in the description, of course. And well, what's next? Let's talk about this. This is the newest addition to the whole setup and probably my favorite. This is the Power Junkie adapter from BlindSpot. And basically what this allows you to do is let me turn off the camera here because it's powering the camera. Take the Sony NPF batteries. These are the batteries that's actually powering the monitor here. It also powers LED panels. It's pretty much the go-to battery for pretty much any camera accessory nowadays. All of these little batteries here, they're just so cheap. They're so readily available. You can get them in a ton of different sizes. Very, very affordable. What it does is it takes those batteries, clips into the adapter, and it gives you a ton of different outputs for power. So we can of course take a dummy battery power adapter, which is basically goes into the battery port. I don't really know what you'd call that. The place you put the battery on the camera, and it plugs into the adapter and it gives you as much power as this thing has. So you can basically extend the battery life of your camera, especially if you're shooting on something like the older Sonys, which the battery life is known to be just horrendous. If you're shooting video on like the A7III or like the A7R II like I was, you'd be switching batteries every like 30 to 45 minutes. It was a nightmare. I do not miss that. Luckily, the A7III's battery is a little bit better, but with this, you can shoot all day long. And then it has 2 USB outports. Outports? I can't talk right now. It has 2 USB outputs, so we can power something like this. This is the Sennheiser wireless lav receiver. Yep. Battery doesn't last long on this guy, so you can actually just plug the USB cable straight into that and have it running the entire time. Just literally just click the battery in like so. There's little LED battery power indicators on there. This thing is seriously incredibly functional and useful for doing anything camera power related. And also, probably the most unique feature about this thing is that not only can it take your NPF batteries and turn it into a power bank or just power anything, it can also charge those Sony NPF batteries. We have a micro USB input as well as a USB-C input. That's badass. So you can essentially eliminate a lot of different batteries and chargers in your kit. So if you're doing something like a travel project where you need to conserve space and weight and eliminate extra batteries and chargers, you could switch pretty much all of your stuff to these and then have pretty much all of your gear running off the Sony NPF batteries and then be able to charge those batteries with these adapters. I mean, it seriously would condense a lot of space within your gear. And then the fact that it also has the USB outputs and you could just use it as a power bank and charge your phone. I mean, you could turn these things into USB power banks. Okay, seriously, I can't tell you how cool this little piece of gear is. It's available on Kickstarter right now. I think it's like 45 bucks. So click the link down in the description. Once that Kickstarter is over, it'll hopefully be available for just straight up retail purchase here soon, but definitely go check that thing out. So then of course, like I said before, we have the Sennheiser wireless lav receiver, which is on the cage here. That's actually just attached via this little cold shoe, which I guess if you didn't want to use the wireless lav and you wanted to use something like the Rode VideoMic Pro or another shotgun microphone, you can just thread that on and attach it just like that. Super simple. That's the benefit of using something like one of these cages, is you can just put whatever the hell you want on it and it just works. But that's pretty much it. As much as it may seem like it's a really complex setup, all cinema rig like, it's actually fairly simple. I just wanted to make this little series, or hopefully start this series, to just give a way or platform for me to talk about the gear that I've been using in a more informal way and just kind of talk about the cool gear that I get sent, because it happens a lot and we all love to see videos about gear. I think after I finish editing this video, I'll probably end up watching reviews on cameras and stuff that I don't need. That being said, I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.